Okay, hello everybody. So today we'll be learning about the general ideas from the era 1450, 1750 in Europe. So first, what did we have in Europe from this era? What are the most significant things? Well, first, this is before, let's say, the era 1450. Before the era 1450, you had this bubonic plague where all of these people gather up, yeah, all of these people, they started dying. All of these people started dying. So what did this cause? Well, why did they die? It was because of the plague, and this and the fact that all of these people died created made people go to this idea of humanism, where they also believed in human potential. They believed that when they believe in human potential, and this humanism led to reformation of churches because if they believe that human have potential, they also have potential to reform church as well and religious beliefs. And then this Protestant Reformation was led by this Reformation was mostly led by Martin Luther. Martin Luther created this idea of that he Martin Luther was basically a guy who disagreed with many facts of church. So Martin Luther. Okay, so Martin Luther was basically a guy who favored institutional simplicity, meaning that he just reduced the religious sacraments of the church and of Catholicism. So he reduced the sacraments, which means like the veneration of Virgin Mary, the veneration of going to like church, and then he just let this idea where basically like he just basically redefined like ways to go to heaven, and these was all based on his individual ideas, and this is how he reformed church. So following his footsteps, you have John Calvin. He also he also established a theocratic community in the Swiss of Geneva and preached more extreme form of Protestantism. So all of these people, they just reformed the church based on their own ideas, and this is basically the first step. Europe, one of the first, uh, one of the first significant factors from the era of 1450. Okay, and then the church reformations, like they led to they led to religious wars and stuff, and that's basically another significant factor that also happened in that era. And one of the third significant factor was like basically the limitations of feudalism. Feudalism, like during this era, was fading away, and this feudalism was fading away, and then it started this immersion of European nation states. Basically, a nation state, yeah, is basically a state where they have fixed borders. And a nation state is basically a border with solid political units and fixed borders. And then this is basically also started would what we define to be nationalism. These nation states, like they led to these ideas of nationalism and national unity. So what does this all and then this the emergence of nation state was one factor. Another thing that also happened was absolutism, where the ruler tries to centralize all of the power to him. Like from this era, you had feudalism. Yeah, this era, you had. So let me just erase this. So, uh, before this era, you had feudalism, where the power of this guy, of the big man, the the big guy, the king, his let's say his plate of food, he doesn't own all of his food. he doesn't own all of his food. Some of his food goes to like all of these small no nobles, all of these nobles. So he doesn't. His power is not centralized because he doesn't. Uh he can't control all parts of feudalism. So this new idea was he tries to centralize all his food where this big guy is like, yo, I need my food back, man. I just need it, man. Like, I gotta get all my food just for myself, not for you guys. And he tries to limit the nobility's power and centralize all all of the power to him. And this is basically the gist of absolutism. Also, another significant part from in this era is modernization. Like many parts of Europe started to modernize, and even like in England, they created their own. In England, they started a parliamentary democracy. I mean, parliamentary rule where they actually limit the power of the king, of the absolute ruler, and one of the most significant factors in this era is probably the and one of the key factors of scientific revolution is probably the heliocentric model, the heliocentric model according to which the Earth and other planets revolve around the sun. Like before, in like feudal ages, they believed that the Earth was like at the center, and then the sun revolves around this Earth, and they believed the sun revolved. But then the heliocentric model showed that it's actually the sun that's in the center, and the Earth and all other planets, or the the Earth and all other planets orbit are around the sun. And some other key factors is that, like, how do you spread the knowledge? How do you spread this knowledge? And this 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 spread of knowledge was very reliant or contingent on Gutenberg's uh, printing press. Was very reliant on Gutenberg's printing press. Uh, so what I mentioned before was basically a modernization of natural laws, where the natural laws from Aristotle's time was like reformed, and then you have this more modernized natural laws that are actually true. And then another type of modernization was the the modernization of natural rights, which is basically which started this age of reason, age of enlightenment, age of reason, age of enlightenment, where enlightenment culture valued not just science but also the philosophy and ideas about how to make society and government more just. It was basically a way to make government more just. So another key factor in this era is the reformation of society and economics. One of the most uh, significant factors was basically Europe. They getting more healthy, getting more healthy through the Columbian Exchange, where they had a diversified foods from different countries and more potatoes, potatoes, agriculture, corn, but and new foods from the Americas that basically their help their diet, and this also increased the stability of people's healthiness. And another factor is mercantilism. Like mercantilism is basically a favoritism of exports than imports. Mercantilism. Mercantilism is to favor is to favor exports over imports. And this new reformation of economics capitalism also led to capitalism where you could have individual where you could own your own business privately, and uh, this created more social mobility. At the same time, people might not have equal amount of money than others because yeah, and that's what also led to socialism, which comes later. And basically, the father of capitalism is Adam Smith. Yeah, Adam Smith is the father of capitalism. Uh, so let me just write that right here. Adam Smith. Adam Smith was the father of capitalism. He also made this book called The Wealth of Nations, and capitalism became the Western world's dominant approach to economics in the modern era, which was a which was a true full scale of industrialization. Not occurred. Yeah, and this is basically one of the factors that also led to industrialization in Europe, which happened later in the late 1700s and early 1800s.